I'm in search of conversation guests. If you are interested or know someone that might be interested, please contact me directly. Thank you. Did you always want to go into fintech?
No, because fintech didn't exist when I was young. So there was no like rolling out of bed when I was 5 going, oh my gosh, you know what I want to be when I grow up? I want to work at fintech. Like it didn't exist until probably the like late 90s, I would say, when PayPal started coming around and we started really putting together the ability to, and I could be wrong with timeframes. I have no idea. I've never researched it, but people really started using the internet to move money. And that's the point at which fintech started slowly becoming a thing. And I remember at one point, you know, when I first went into business, and we'll get into that later, I tried to make myself look more legit by saying, you know, I have a website, and they'd be like, you don't have a store? And now if you don't have, you know, it's like, are you actually a real company? You only have a website. And now it's, you know, well, why do you have a store? Why don't you just sell online? So there's been a huge shift, but I think that financial tech has become really the way that people do business more than even going into the bank. I know I rarely go into the bank. I just take pictures on my phone and deposit my checks if I have one, or, you know, move money around, pay my bills, whatever. I don't send things with this. I don't send bills with a stamp anymore. So, and that's all financial tech.
Yeah, digital money is, I mean, I think even at a, what is it, M1, M0, and M2 money, something like 80, I forget if I remember if the numbers are correct, like 85% of money is all digital. So I want to say it was even lower. So we only, the money in our hands is like 15%. I think it was even smaller. I'm forgetting the numbers, but I mean, even 15% seems like a small amount. 15% of all money in the world, in the U.S., is actually in our pockets.
Yeah, it's not very much at all. It's really rare. I mean, I almost never carry cash.
Yeah, I'll call it my first world problem. I dislike having to deal with cash. Like if I go somewhere, I just want to pay with plastic. I don't want quarters, nickels, dimes in my pocket. Like I literally just take it home and I just put it in this little box I have, and I just wait till it builds up, and then I'll go cash it into dollar bills or something. I mean, just put it in the bank, really.
Yeah. So, yeah, I tend to, I like having cash, but I don't use it. I get it, and then, yeah, I take it home and I put it in a box, and eventually, you know, if I hire a gardener for a day or something like that to clean up my yard because I'm too lazy to do it myself, then, you know, then I have cash to pay them because, you know, they're not going to take check. Or, you know, hey, can I send you some money through my company? Let me have your banking information. Like, going to happen. So, yeah, it's just a different mindset now than it was when I was little. And I think that when I grew up and graduated from high school, you know, there was still cash and still checks. I still carry a checkbook, even though I almost never write a check. Mm-hmm. It's habit, but I've had a debit card since probably, you know, 1996, 97, and that's just what it is. So I don't balance my checkbook. I just have one.
Yeah, I don't balance mine.
I was at a bar one time with my coworkers, and, you know, a lot of them are much younger than me. And I got there and I got up to the bar. I'm like, I'm going to, you know, order a poopy drink, you know, whatever it was. And I pulled out my wallet, which has my checkbook in it. And I was like, crap, I forgot my ID. What if they card me? And my coworker looked at me and she goes, you're carrying a checkbook. They're not going to. Oh.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's like, okay, yep, you're right. And they didn't.
Yeah.
I kind of fell into the financial tech industry with that. It's interesting. I'm always learning things.
Say that again. The audio either got low or cut out. You got into what?
I fell into financial tech. I didn't, you know, mean to get there, but where I am right now, and that's fine.
Yeah. What do you do in fintech?
I am a customer service lead, so I have two teams. They're going to pare them down to one as of next week, which will be awesome because I'll be able to focus. One team handles kind of back of the house stuff. So if somebody can't reset their multi-factor authentication, if they need help getting verified for their bank account, canceling accounts, all that kind of back of house stuff that is still, some of it's still very manual. We're working on that. So that's what one team does. And then my other team supports the frontline agents. So the people come in and they talk to, you know, whoever is on chat or on phones. If they don't have the answer, they go to my other team. So they go and ask questions there. It's kind of like a secondary level experts.
What oh yeah, I'm not allowed to ask what company. What services does a company kind of, what are they known for? What services?
Business to business ACH payments. So we.
Oh, okay. So is Heartland, is that a competitor?
I don't know.
Okay, okay.
I recognize the name. They might be. I don't stay up on our competitors like I probably should. Every so often a company name will pop up and I'll be like, well, who the heck are they? You know, so I'll look them up and be like, oh, that's who they are. So yeah, I don't know, maybe, but we mostly focus on business to business, but sometimes it's business to personal. There's if I were to hire you as a subcontractor, I would probably ask you if I could pay you that way because it's just easier. I can just enter in all of your bill information and hit the pay button and it sends it to your bank account.
Why is it necessary or helpful to have a company that's a middleman that deals with that specifically? Like, say if I have a gardener and he has a bank account, I could ask him for his bank information and then send him directly from, what's that called, just a bank transfer from my account to his. What would be the benefit of of ACH business to business?
There's regulations, there's taxes, there's accounting softwares, right? So if you're just paying your gardener and you are paying him under the table and you can just Venmo him, right, or her, you know, really, and you're not like writing it off on your taxes, anything like that. You're just like, here you go, buddy, here's $100. Thanks for, you know, mowing my lawn. If you have a lawn, not big, I'm impressed. Anyway, we record everything and then transfer it over to your accounting software. So you don't have to do double entry. You just go in, put everything into our software, and then we push it over to your software, and then it's done, right? You can go in and do your reconciliation from an accounting point of view, but you don't have to worry about like going in there and entering it in us so that we can pay it, and then going over here and entering the bill and the invoices and all that kind of stuff. I actually do a little bit of bookkeeping for a friend of mine, and he's very manual. He's just a small automotive place, right? So he does not necessarily need to pay his bills through us. He only has one company that he uses revolving, well, two companies he uses revolving credit on. Everything else he just swipes his debit card. So he's a little too small for our services because he's not really paying his bills electronically in that way. But I sit down with a stack of paper every week and enter in the bill and then enter in the payments and track whether it got paid or that got paid. So we're able to really reduce the amount of time that a company will spend on a bookkeeper or an accountant by making it electronic.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. That's totally understandable. So just a business that is fully tailored to business banking, really, because yeah. Oh, well, I guess it's not banking though. I said that incorrectly. Business financial transactions. because banking would be like creating the account at like Chase Bank or something, a business account, but that's slightly different.
Right. So our customers have bank accounts, but they give us the permission to, when they tell us to, and only when they tell us to, pull the funds out of their bank account and get it to their vendors. And it just kind of all matchy-matchy.
Yeah.
Accountants really like it when things are matchy-matchy. When they don't like that very much at all. So as long as we can keep everything, working and everyone getting paid on time, and our customers are happy and we are successful.
What do you like the most about your job?
It was a rough day.
Actually, earlier when I first just asked the question, I saw your face light up actually. So I was like, oh, I bet you there's some good stories. So either you like fintech a lot, or you just or you had a tough day and maybe you just have some good stories in the past, but today was maybe a tough day.
Yeah. It's there. You have tough days. There are always tough days at work, and it's how you get through those tough days that matters, right? So on the rough days, the people that I work with are amazing. It's a great company. Our CEO is a wonderful man. It's a really good company to work for. I don't know anything about working for other financial tech companies, but I like mine. So even on the tough days, I know that most days are actually pretty good. My boss is a very nice man, like not just the CEO, but my actual boss is a very nice man. I enjoy talking to him. He's very supportive. We have a really good team and a really good culture there. So there's a lot to be said for a business with a really good culture, and I like ours.
That's huge. I kind of think about this from time to time, and I know I don't think in our society we could ever do this, but when you talk about how good your team is, Min's wife, Jessica, she also talks about how awesome her team is. And I'm like, man, I wish there was a way to get that awesome team feeling when you're job interviewing. Meaning, I wish our culture, like basically what typical thing is, you send in your resume to some company, they review it, they have to call back 10 or 20 people or 40 people, and then you might be selected to come in for an interview. You interview, you meet this team, you meet maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 people from that company, and then you interview, you get an offer letter, then you have to accept. You don't know anything other, you don't really, I mean, yes, you could ask questions to those 2 to 4 people, but it's their perspective answering those questions. So to me, they could easily, I've seen it quite a bit of times, they embellish a lot of things on, like from my perspective, I'll work for a programming company, and then I'll be part of the team interviewing this new candidate, and the candidate says something like, oh, what's your work environment like? And then my teammate will say something like, oh, it's awesome. We have a snack room, and you can take breaks whenever you want. And I'm like looking at my teammate like, what the fuck, man? Like, why are you lying? Like, at least you could tell like white lies maybe, but don't outright lie on some. It felt like some of these people are trying to lie to like fish in and reel in these candidates, and I'm just like, I don't want to lie to people. Like, just tell them the truth. I mean, we don't have to. You don't have to tell the dirty laundry, but just be honest and don't embellish too much. So
yeah.
Anyways, yeah. I wish when I hear about fun teams or people that enjoy their job because of their team, I wish there was a way that America, or I bet you it's probably globally, it's not just America. I wish there was a way to fix that issue.
I think that in the job market now and with companies now, I think we have a shift going on. I think that because people my age are taking over, if that makes sense, we have a different mindset than maybe like our parents or even our grandparents who are just now leaving the workforce, right? So we want it to be fun. You're talking to a group of people who, think it would be really cool to have a skate ramp in my living room. My living room isn't big enough, but you're talking to a group of people who are a little bit, who grew up in the 80s with the punk rock and 90s with the indie, and just like it's a different mindset than you wake up, you roll out of bed, you put on your suit and go to work for 40, 50 years and then get your pension and go home. Like we don't have that anymore, right? So I think that we're changing that. I know at my company we hire around a set of we have, I can't remember what they're called right now. They're our company's building blocks, to be humble and be authentic and have fun. So we really I found a piece of paper, or not a piece of paper, it was digital, but a digital copy of the questions that my now manager and I put together when we interviewed our current boss. And we each took a different section of that. And I asked him questions like, what do you do to relax? What do you do to keep your team happy? Like, what are your, it's not my job to find out if he is a smarty pants tech guy, but I had the opportunity to find out whether or not he'd be somebody I'd want to work for.
Yeah.
And when I hire onto my team, I look at that and I ask questions like, what gets you out of bed in the morning? What excites you? What is your driving force? Because if their driving force isn't something they're going to get on my team, then they're not going to be a good fit.
Yeah.
They can actually be on my team and not talk to anybody all day, and that's fine. But if they're being hired as a direct support person and they're not comfortable talking to people, they're not going to do well.
Yep.
So, and I try to make it very clear what we do is hard. I mean, it's not technically hard. There's just a lot of it. We turn over a lot of support tickets. So it's very, very busy and it's hard to keep up. So if you can't manage your time, it's not a good spot for you. There's just all these things, like little questions that you ask. I don't want to lie to somebody. I don't, and I'll tell them, I'm like, I'm really goofy and silly. Are you going to be able to handle a person who is in the middle of a conversation and spills her water and it's like, or, I know you saw him over here. But usually when I'm in a Zoom meeting, he's in my lap, like, patting my face and being held like a baby and rub my belly. Like if that isn't the kind of leader that you can work for, because some people want somebody who's very strictly
rigid,
and that's just not who I am.
One of the recent companies I worked for, when I interviewed with them, I told them the way I like to work. I like to, as a software engineer, I feel like soft skills are super important. If you're hiring a programmer, you want to get someone that's really good at coding. I feel like a software engineer is someone that's good at code, but has some very high level soft skills. When I say soft skills, like, for example, some of the companies I work for, I'll go to different departments. Like if they say, hey, we're going to pull data about customers and we're going to give them offers according to their gaming data, and it may be offers for them to stay at a hotel or for them to get gaming stuff at a casino. So I have to go, to the hotel director, talk to him and say, hey, we're going to implement this. Do you see any issues? Go over to the membership department. I didn't want to give away the name of the company, so just in case I say something mean about them, which I probably will, but so the membership team, I talk to them. I'll talk to so there could be up to like 4 departments, and I'm the one hired as a programmer, but I tell my upper manager or my manager, say, hey, if you want me to run with this, I'll go as far as you want. So as I like to think about myself as a software engineer, in the sense of I'm thinking and engineering all these ways of how to connect all these things. most programmers, they just prefer, hey, tell me what you want coded. I'm just going to sit at my desk and code. I don't want to talk to anybody. But that's not the way I like to work. I like to know the whole system holistically, how it's going to impact everyone, where the flaws are. Let's fix that in the beginning. So I told this other company that I interviewed with, that's how I like to work. And they're like, oh yeah, we're really innovative. So whatever ideas you think about, you can talk about it. And yeah, we're really flexible on your hours. Because I also told them that, because the majority of my career has been like, as long as the projects get done too. So they might say, hey, we got 3 months to finish this big module. How do you want to break it down, and blah, blah, blah. So most of the time I'll get it done in like 2.5 months. I got 2 weeks to kind of mentally rest. But this company, they said, yeah, we'll work around your schedule. But when I got there, that wasn't the case. They're like, you got to be at your desk at 9 or 8 in the morning, and then you could leave at 5 p.m. I'm like, wait, what happened to this flexible project-based thing that you said? You completely lied to me. So I did put up with that for a while, and then the innovation part, as this one was, I think the upper management, they want to move quick, but they were incapable of making the decisions or to see the future of those decisions. So they're just so focused on kind of now, or they're afraid of those potential making a decision and having to pay for the repercussions months later. But I feel like that was actually not innovation. That's like I understand it. It's like I bring up a bunch of ideas. I got to submit a bunch of paperwork, get wireframes drawn out for them to understand it, kind of tell them how it's going to fit in with the customers. But it's so much work. I'm like, gosh, guys, like you guys are making this so hard on me. Like it shouldn't be this tough. Uh, so that's a case where I felt like when I interviewed, I said exactly everything straightforward to them. I don't know how they misunderstood it, but so it wasn't a good fit after a few years. I'm surprised I lasted that long to some degree, but
Yeah, that's something that I see a lot when, I'm always looking at ways that I can make make it a little bit more interesting for my team, because they basically have the same kind of thing they do throughout the day. And hey, I need you to make this number and try to, there's two numbers I shoot for. And so how can we make it fun? How can we make it interesting? What can we do? Like I've been looking for like 2 years at ways that I can gamify their jobs just so that it makes it a little bit more interesting. Like, do we do points like Harry Potter houses, or do we do like how can I started to build out a game board that they could move according to their goals, and I'm like, I don't have time to draw all that shit. So yeah, it's still kind of rattling around in my head, but that's definitely something that I see. When I look at ways that I can make my team's their work life a little bit better, right? I have such strong feelings about this. You spend more time with your coworkers than you do with your family awake.
yeah. That's
when you're
feels
working
so true.
8, 9, 10-hour days sometimes, I've discovered for me that 10 hours is my limit. Once I hit 10 hours, my brain's like, no. But and the cat comes and gets me. He's like, I'm ready to get up and wander around.
Yeah.
They're very cute. Anyway, so that's a lot of the advice that's given. Like, hey, can you give them a flexible schedule? Can you let them work just like whenever throughout the day, as long as it gets done? I can't do that right now, but I'm hoping maybe I can in the future, and know to ask for it. And it's just not something that I can provide at this time.
Yeah.
So, that work-life balance thing, like I feel like I don't want them to be drones. They're people.
Yeah.
And I think it's so unfair that the company that you worked for was like, yeah, you can be flexible. And then like you get there and they're like, nope, this is a 9 to 5 and you will be here from 9 to 5. And, if you finish early, then sit at your desk and do whatever, think of something else to do. But I
Yeah.
really like how you look at your software development globally. Like it sounds like you're looking at not only is the software going to be functional, is it going to be supportable?
It's crazy. I go into depth. If the company allows me to look at their financial stuff, I even tell them, like, I've actually told the last company, they wanted to, they had an opportunity to kind of bring on software, software developers, and the money was a bit tight. And I was looking at it, and I saw what they were trying to do. I was like, wow, if we bring on this other person, this team is going to be incredible. And then I even knew because I was dealing a lot with accounting, I had to write the software for the accounting in house, so I knew the numbers. So I even told the owner, I said, I kind of understand the numbers that you're working with. It looks a bit tight. I actually, this was his personality. He's you give him an inch and he tries to take a foot. That's just his personality. I didn't I didn't think about it thoroughly when I offered this to him. I said, "Hey, to bring on that other person, maybe I'll take a slight pay cut, but maybe you got to give me a perk. Give me half Fridays off or something." And he came back later, like a few weeks later. Yeah, let's bring on this other person. Would you be willing to take a small pay cut with no perks? I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Uh,
No, that's not how it works.
yeah, yeah. So it was, we had a 2 hour discussion where he got really upset with me. And I'm like, I don't know what else I could tell you. I've been a straight shooter this whole time with you. I say what I mean what I say, and I fully do everything I say. So I don't know what you want. Um, so anyways, yeah, I think about everything from the cost of, even at that time, I knew the cost of the employees and whatnot. Yeah. So holistically, everything from the cost of the company, how much to implement this new change. I even try to look at, okay, we're going to spend 2 weeks for this times X amount of people. How much does that cost hourly? What other projects do we have that's getting pushed down because of this one? Is it worth that financial risk? I mean, I'm looking all over the place to try to have my biggest impact wherever I am.
Yeah. And I think that that's important. I think that's a really great mindset. And yeah, it doesn't sound like that was a good fit for you.
Yeah.
That you were able to, if you haven't already moved on,
Yeah, I have.
to find something that's more in line with your own values.
Exactly. I did work on a lot of like side projects. Like I tried to create a private messaging app that uses heavy encryption, kind of like if you heard of Signal recently. It's just a messaging app on Android and Apple that's super high security, and it's semi unhackable. You'd have to get someone's phone and have their password on their phone. So, well, I guess you could. Can you remote? Yeah. Anyways, I don't want to get technical on that. So I tried to create a Signal-like app recently. So while I was doing that, I was like, man, I really like podcasts. Podcasting, especially. There's certain podcasts where I listen to, it just touches my heart. Like this one story, I think I might have mentioned on a recent talk that I did, but I'll just say it again. There's these two guys that help falsely imprisoned people. So there's this kid that the mom killed the grandma because the mom was mentally ill, like really mentally not stable. But the cops came and accused the son, said you were the killer. He was like, I think 17, so they're able to press him as an adult and put him in jail. If I remember correctly from the story, his mom brought him illegally from Mexico, so he didn't know or does he have his green card? Either way, he wasn't sure to fight the situation with the cops, like to say, hey, it wasn't me, because then he's afraid, well, what if they deport me and all this stuff? So he didn't know what was the right thing to do. So he just followed whatever they gave him, in which they sent him to prison. These other two guys, they have the time and money and the heart, where word eventually got to them about this kid, and they followed in on the case, asked the police station for the records, and they asked for pictures of the murders, of the murder scene and whatnot. On one of the key photos, on the back of the grandma is three three fingers clawing at the back, trying to hold the grandma as the grandma's trying to climb out the window from the killer. There's three fingers holding the grandma back, and the guy's looking at the photo like, why is there three fingers? And then he goes talks to the mom that finds out she's ill. He looks at her right hand, and the index finger is cut. She cut a job when she was young. Got her index finger cut off, so she doesn't have, it's a stub.
Right.
So he's like, I'm pretty sure we got the killer.
Yeah.
So he was able to get that kid out of jail, and even after jail, you have a permanent record from that. So he helps the kid get housing out of his own pocket. He's helping the kid get a job. And like when he's telling the story, I mean, it hits. Like I was getting all teary-eyed. So it was stories like that where I was like, that I want to do podcasting to get there. Like I don't know how to get there. I want to talk to interesting people, hear the story, and try to have that effect that I have, or that I get when I get teary-eyed. And actually, Min was listening to that talk from Trin, the mental illness one that I did probably a few talks ago.
Yeah, I watched some of that.
Yeah, what was that?
I watched some of that.
Yeah, and then he was watching it. I think he watches my podcast. I think he watches all of them. So he said on that one he got teary-eyed when she mentioned a point where her job, she does deal with a lot of mentally ill people because it's for NAMI. And when she talks to them, they have a thing where they bring in a box of tissues because she may cry at their stories. And so everyone's allowed to cry. And I think my brother got teary-eyed on that now. And I was like, yes, that's what I'm trying to do. Stuff like that. Like it could be any story, and it just touches anybody, whatever people's lives and how these stories hit them. I think that's what I'm trying to do. Sorry, I just went on a total tangent.
Oh, it makes it interesting to know why you're doing what you're doing. Because I know, sorry, my couch is sinking like everything with sand. I know that you've been, interviewing people. I started to watch the one with your friend who is a diplomat. And that was really interesting. I didn't get to finish it because I had to work, but I was like, I need to, just kind of see what Lim is asking for in these questions, because I was going way too in depth with it. But it was just really interesting to see.
What do you mean? What do you mean by in depth on that?
Like, I was like, does he want like a 5-page bio or like a 3-line little thing?
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
So that really helped me. But yeah, just learning that like he just had these opportunities and he took them. Like he just took the opportunities as they came along, and now he's like a diplomat. He gets to travel all over the world and meet new people and see new cultures, and that's just so interesting to me because I have not traveled. Even though I want to, like I haven't really left the Western U.S. very much, right? Like even like the couple times I've been to the East Coast, I went to Florida once, and I was there like 2 nights. I went to New York. That's an exciting story. But I was there for less than 48 hours. And, I'm going to go back. But then COVID hit. Like, I went last December and got back. And, like, went into the office in the Bay Area and came back. And they're like, hey, COVID, it's hitting. They found some at San Jose Airport. And I was like, oh, I was just there. But I have that fun. Thankfully. Knocked on side tables there. But, yeah, just really, really interesting how people end up where they end up. Like, I know one of my questions was, how did you end up in Fintech? I was working at a bank and got to the point there where I didn't know where my next step was. That's usually at a job, that's when I leave, is I don't know where my next step is, and nobody is guiding me in that direction. So I like set up meetings with my boss. I was in sales support, so talked to one of the salespeople. She's like, no, we have an open position, but we're looking for someone with experience. And I was like, okay, that's totally fair, right? Like, what is my next step here? Could not get in front of my boss, by the way. It took me 2 weeks to get in front of her, to like get on the phone with her to give her my 2 weeks notice.
Whoa.
Yeah. And she was like my direct boss. So, you know, I just didn't know what my next step was. So I started kind of putting the word out. And at that time, my company only hired if you were referred in. And I had a friend who was working there, and she was like, we have a position open, why don't you apply? So I got hired as a CS agent on chat and kind of worked my way up from there. But it was definitely like, you know, I had to ask, have I always wanted to go into fintech? Well, no, it never didn't really exist before, but you know, that's just kind of where I have landed for now.
I actually think that's such an important thing for people to actually hear to some degree. If someone's listening and like they happen to be at their point in their career where they don't know whether maybe they hate their current job, or they feel that they would be happier in a different job. It's just, I think that's more of the norm than the other route. Like when I watch something like Neil deGrasse Tyson, the astrophysicist, if I watch maybe Joe Rogan and I like what he does, or I watch, I mean, you watch these people that seem to get lucky in life, but they know what they want, or they've gotten to follow the things that they want. And I don't think that's actually, unfortunately, that seems to be not the common story. So I think
we try to force it to be the common story. I think that, you know, I mean, how old were you the first time you remember somebody asking you what you want to be when you grow up?
Oh, geez. Embarrassingly, I wanted to be a cop. I remember, well, anyways, I know that the thoughts of being like this manly cop was like what the image was.
Yeah. And I mean, the first thing I remember wanting to be was an astronaut.
What was that?
An astronaut. I wanted to go so bad. I didn't have pictures of boys on my walls. I had pictures of like supernovas and galaxies and things like that. Like I was a proud subscriber to World Magazine.
On that top, I love space stuff. How deep do you go in talking about like just space travel, or how far galaxies are away, how big the universe is?
So unfortunately, somebody at some point looked at me and said, you know, astronauts have to be good at math. And I went, oh, I guess I'll never be an astronaut. And I have been like, you know, 9 or 10. Guess I can't be an astronaut. I'm not good at math. And that is not actually true. It just wasn't taught in a way that worked with my brain. But yeah, so I gave up the astronaut dream. As far as talking about, I guess I just don't talk about it. And it's not because it's not interesting and beautiful and wonderful and fascinating. It's because I don't have opportunity to talk about it. I should sit down and talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, maybe we'll jump to that in a little bit just for fun.
Maybe that would be nice. So yeah, I think that it's and some people, you know, crawl out of their crib and they say, I want to be a cop. And they grow up and they're a cop and they're the best cop ever, right? Yeah, that wasn't me. I wanted to be a teacher for a little while, and then I tutored and was still falling asleep in class. So I have no business being a teacher. I think I really just wanted to decorate the bulletin boards. And then I wanted to be a business owner. And that has always carried. That hasn't changed. So, but I mean, the what in there, like, okay, what are you going to do in business, has definitely changed over the years.
When you said that we unfortunately make that the dream, can you re-explain that? I'm not sure if when I said, what was it? We we want to find a job that we wake up happy, and then you said, unfortunately, it seems like we make that problem or something. I'm not sure if I'm wording it correctly.
I know what you mean. I know what you're referring to. So we are asked at a very young age. We're asked that question before we're even developed as people. And ideally, we never stop developing as people, right? But there's a whole lot of maturing that goes on between the time you're 5 years old and the time you're 30. And in high school, we're encouraged to, get good grades so we can go to a 4-year college so that we can pick a career that we're going to do for the rest of our lives. And, whether that's doctor, lawyer, whatever it is, we're going to spend a lifetime worth of money becoming this thing. And we think that we're going to be happy at that because that's the expectation. And I think that if you're not happy at that, you go to school for 4 years, 8 years, however long it takes you to get through your college education, and you land in this job and go, holy crap, I hate this thing, but I've got $150,000 in school loans that I have to pay off now, and I'm not happy. So I'm gonna stick with it because this is what I chose to do when I was 18 and not yet developed enough to know what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. So, and I will repeat every day, I am not who I was when I was 18. I am totally that person. I don't want to be that person.
Yeah, I don't think it. Oh, wait, say that. You want to, you don't want to be.
I don't want to be that person I was when I was 8. Maybe some of the stuff, like of course you bring some of that with you, but I hope that I have matured and changed and that I'm not the same person now that I was 10 years ago. I know I'm not who I was 5 years ago. My life has completely changed in the last almost 7 years. So it's unfair, I think.
I completely agree.
To put that kind of, like, you have talked about how you just kind of ended up in programming. I ended up in Fintech, but to get there, I went to trade school to be a massage therapist. And when that didn't work out because my back went out on me, it was okay because I had already paid off my college loans and I could move on to the next thing. And I was a project coordinator for a while, and I loved that too. I worked in a cabinet shop. I loved that. I loved walking through the building where my cabinets ended up and going, well, I can touch that. Like at the end of the day, I'd step back and be like, I built that thing. I definitely don't get that same kind of satisfaction in my current job, but I take satisfaction in the success of my team. And in the success of my company. I went to New York because we were public. And I got to be on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange when they rang that bell.
Oh, exciting.
And it was so cool. The floor is not very exciting. It's like this boring laminate, but the ceiling is really cool. I'll have to send pictures of that. And it was exciting in a different way than it was to walk through the building and see my creations that were there. But it was still this sense of pride. Like there's no how do I put this without sounding like an asshole? The pride is the same. It feels a little different because it's a different kind. And I definitely didn't do either of those things alone. There were a team of us achieving both things. But one isn't better than the other. And I think that we put so much emphasis on success, going the path that is thought of as the correct path. You go to college, you get a job, you get married, you have babies, you live the rest of your life, your babies have babies, you have grandbabies, all that stuff. And that's the right way for some people. No, it wasn't the right way for me. I did not go to college, and yet I consider myself successful. I own my home. I am reasonably comfortable. It's tight because I've bought too much yarn, but there's.
And that the success. Who was I having this conversation with recently? The idea of success, where we think, where the common stereotype is an expensive car, a big house, um, rings, watches, clothing, but that's not success. That's stuff. Um, yes, I understand working, having accomplishments, but you could have all that without all the big zeros in your bank account. It's a strange thing. I don't know. I don't know where that all goes. I hope I get to talk to some uh, psychiatrist or not psychiatrist, either psychiatrists, psychologists, people. I actually have a interview next month with a philosopher, a professor of philosophy. So I'm really looking forward to that, to maybe ask some of those questions on, is there a way to break it down? And I think my questions may lead more into psychology than philosophy, but I think I could see both sides having answers on it. Meaning, what is happiness for humans? Where is what is good for us in this concrete jungle? You know, like, yeah, I don't think money is. Maybe it works for Jeff Bezos, but I don't know. I don't know how to. Jeff Bezos is a small, tiny fraction of people out there. There's common people that we need to kind of have this society fit for most of us to be able to wake up in the morning and be happy about a job and keep the gears turning. But everyone should be happy. I don't see, especially now. Actually, I think with have you heard of Andrew Yang, he ran for presidency this last one, but he didn't make it, and then he's running for New York mayor right now. And where was I going with this? He talks about universal basic income because of automation, machines and factories and are kind of, people are losing jobs because there's so much automation. So I heard him say this, but I don't know the numbers on it. I want to see some figures or more. I want to do some research to find it. Today, humans are able to produce a lot more with automation, where we almost don't need a lot of humans to do the everyday work. I think we still need some, but what that means is the rich people are getting richer off of robots, and then we're getting less, the common people. It should just kind of, I feel like it would, those rich people just give us a little bit, just have us. I don't think I'm asking for like everyone to have a big house, but just we should be able to have enough food, not worry about healthcare, and then have a government that tries to do better for the people instead of all the corporate interests. But I know I just bounced a bunch of ideas, but yeah, I don't know. That's just I just went on a rant. Sorry.
Okay, I go on this too. I always kind of take it back to caveman days. Not that I want to be bonked over the head or dragged around by my hair. I know that is a caricature. But human beings biologically are built, for lack of a better term, to live in small communities that support each other. They typically will share resources. They make the tools that they need. So I think that modern man is missing out on a lot of that because we live in such large communities that we lose the community, right? Like, I know my immediate neighbors, but that's it. And I've lived in this house for 10 years.
Yeah, I've been here 4 or 5 years. I don't even know my neighbors really. I like get annoyed if I had one neighbor knock on the door like, "Hey, can you help me with something?" I'm like, I'm just a grumpy. I mean, I did help the person and they were really grateful, but it's just like you're saying, kind of American life style. That's kind of the norm.
We go to the store and we buy the things that we need, and not that, I mean, I buy store-bought clothes, obviously, but we don't have that pride of making things because we don't have time to make things. Some people don't want to make things, and that's okay. I am a maker, and I am happy when I am making things. But maybe those people are more, wired to go hunting, or you know what I mean? Like, I just feel like, and I know hunting isn't right for everybody either. I don't think I could do it, although I do eat meat. I just think that we've lost a lot of our roots, and I don't think we should go back to living in mud, or I appreciate modern convenience, but I think there's something to be said for small community and really banding together and supporting each other. And that kind of goes along with what you were saying, where you have this elite class of people who have more money than they could ever spend. And I'm not the kind of person to tell them how they could spend it or should spend it, but maybe they don't need that much.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe we change the way our economic system is set up so that it's more balanced, like you said. And I don't know if universal basic income is the answer to that. I know about it. I know what it is, but I haven't researched it really at all, other than like hearing a couple of TED Talks. But it would be great if people didn't have to worry about how they were going to pay their rent or their mortgage.
Yeah.
And if they wanted to make more money, they could. Because that's my understanding. Like we all get basically this baseline, and then if we want to go to work and make more money, then we can do that. Or, I could sit at home and knit all day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yes, especially with if the rich people are that rich, they can't spend all that money. So spreading it out for the common people, if we have a universal basic income, that'd be great. Especially if machines are able to do that much. I think logistically, I'm theorizing we're not fully there yet, but I imagine we're getting close. With self-driving cars coming up. I mean, all the machines inside the Amazon warehouses. That's just crazy how much automation's going on. And then soon, automated truck drivers, or whatever you want to call that. I don't know the exact term, but trucks that carry big cargo from state to state and city to city.
I think there will always be room for the human touch, though, and maybe that will evolve as well. But I know that something that I hear from my customers a lot, because I don't always not talk to them. I do talk to our customers, and they're awesome. Is I've been accused of being a robot on more than one occasion. They want to talk to a human being. They don't. Some of them don't mind chat. There are many of them who don't want to chat with somebody, even though it's a human on the other side of the keyboard. They want to speak to a human voice on the phone and do their business that way.
Yeah.
And there's just something to be said about that human touch and the empathy that comes through, that I don't think we're ever going to get from a machine. Now, with that said, I had the amazing opportunity to sit next to a gentleman on the plane from here to San Diego a couple years ago, and he was building an AI server farm up here in Nevada. I can't remember his name, but I'm pretty sure he definitely more than I did. And he was just, in regular class on Southwest, which is how he keeps his money. But he and I talked at length about artificial intelligence and what needs to be programmed into the programs to ensure that they don't destroy us for our own good. So it was very enlightening, because I had never thought about it in depth like that. And you just never know who you're going to meet on the airplane.
Yeah.
It was a great experience, and it just definitely opened my eyes and my mind to the possibilities of what AI can do. I know that there's a lot of capability to replicate humans, but they won't. I don't think they'll ever be able to fully replicate us. And maybe we just need to develop that which is innately human within us that can't be replicated, as in order to continue to be relevant.
Yeah. One of the, I think it was Andrew Yang, I forget where I heard it. They said if the universal basic income does work out, that would leave a lot more free time for us to take care of our grandparents. And that sounded like a fantastic idea, to have more family time. I mean, that's when you said you like to take things back to caveman days. That's actually, I really love to do that too. So that's pretty amazing or that's awesome that you say that. So for example, from my little research, I found that in tribes, they usually spend about 20 hours a week hunting and gathering. I don't know how accurate that is. That's the numbers that I found. So that means 20 hours a week where they go gather food, housing, fix their huts and whatnot. If you think about our 40 hours a week plus the drive to work, plus getting dressed, plus whatever other things you have to do to prepare for the job. And sometimes some people, like I know if I'm taking on a new job, I may put some late hours to try to make sure that I'm very prepared for the upcoming tasks. So, I mean, you're talking about 40, 45 hours, 50 hours a week or more. And some people work even more. I think I don't want to work anymore, but I know other people that do. So let's just average it out to, let's just say 45 hours a week, just to make it easy. So tribes back in the day, they were doing about 20 hours a week. We're at 45 hours a week. Something's missing there. Mm-hmm. And then other things with the tribe living in that, and I agree with you when you're saying, I'm not saying that we should go back to caveman days. I'm just saying some of these ideas we're missing in our current life, and how do we get it back? I don't really know, but there should be discussions about it to try to figure out an answer. What was the other one? So there was the 20 hours a week plus, when you go to work, you get your paycheck 2 weeks later or 4 weeks later, and then you go buy food. There's such an abstracted layer between all that. You work for X amount of hours, you get paid on this currency that has some value that can depreciate. It usually only depreciates. I don't think the US dollar has ever gone, or at least not that I know of, gone up in value. So you have a depreciating asset that then you're going to go buy milk, meat, whatever you're going to eat. But in the tribal days, I should think of a better word than tribal days, in caveman days, when you live in a tribe and you go kill that deer or whatever you get that deer, when you bring it back, that pride that you have on yourself, that is something that we humans are lacking. Especially, I would say, I'm going to be sexist and say, unfortunately, maybe for men and our testosterone levels, we're missing that. We need that. I have a little bit of it almost seems like an embarrassing story, but about 6 years ago, I got back into racquetball, and I wasn't very physical at that time in my life. I was just going to work, programming. My throat's getting dry. And I was playing racquetball, and just one day I kind of ran into the wall, and I hit the wall pretty hard on my shoulder. It didn't break anything, nothing, but then there's a moment where I feel something. It's weird to go sit in a cubicle program all day, and where cavemen have to go survive, and they're probably using, bows and spears and stuff. And to play racquetball, that was an odd correlation for me to think about. This is feeling I go to work, I get a paycheck. I don't really feel anything throughout the whole thing. It's just a process. You're just you're a cog in the system. So when I played racquetball, I actually was I started just going hardcore, trying to run all over the place and just crash into walls because I enjoyed it. It's a little bit embarrassing to think of it like that, but I think humans were missing, for some of us, we need that, and some of us maybe don't need it. But maybe some people, I actually theorize a lot of people would do better with it, and they don't know that they're missing it.
Yeah. Our bodies are built to move. And like I said, I use that term built because I don't have a better term. But we have developed and evolved to move. We evolve constantly. And that's why we start breaking down when we sit all the time, or we just stand in one spot all the time. And why exercise is so good for you. Your bones need that weight pressure in order to grow and be strong. Your muscles need to move and lift heavy things and stretch. Your ligaments need to stretch. I went through a very intense program over the last year, and and it was like 3 hours a day sometimes of exercise, of lifting weights and being on the cardio machines and eating just really, really healthy, nothing that was processed, nothing. It was all like chicken and asparagus and maybe a little bit of rice or potatoes, but it was very, very clean, very, very healthy. And I felt amazing. I felt better than I have probably since I was a kid. Like, it was really, really fantastic. And, COVID has made it so that I don't want to go to the gym and be around people talking, but, I can tell the difference now that I'm not doing that, how my body feels. I wake up achy and tired now. I wake up, so just that movement. I actually, when I was working at the casino down in San Diego, and I was actually in the casino working, there was these little old ladies who came in, and mind you, I was in like my early 20s, right? They come in and they just come walking with, they're just like, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys are so youthful, it's amazing. And they're like, don't ever stop moving. That was to their youthfulness, was never stop moving. And it's so true. Like, just the movement keeps the synovial fluid. I don't know if you can hear my knuckles cracking as I move them, but keeps the synovial fluid in your joints viscous and moving, and it keeps you strong, and just all the different things. Like, it's amazing what a little bit of movement will do for your body that is positive. And we do have sit behind the desk jobs. So of course you felt alive playing racquetball. You were moving, you were, like you said, you were feeling, you were hitting that wall and it was solid, and you were feeling it with your arm and your shoulder, and maybe that hurt, but it was almost a good hurt because even though it was painful and you were damaging your body a little bit. And I say that with love because I played roller derby.
Oh yeah, we should talk about that. But anyway, yeah, go ahead.
You needed to feel. You need to feel and experience life. I don't think life is about sitting behind a desk, even though that's what I do. I think that there's so much more to the human experience. Go and travel, and I think that's amazing. And I really want to do that too. I don't want to spend the rest of my life sitting behind a desk. Like, how can I get out from behind my desk? I'm working on that. But, and just moving. I encourage myself. And like, you are, your ankles are swelling because you sit too much. Get up. Get up and walk around. You're not on a queue. You don't have to sit there all day long. I know you're focused. Set a timer and get up and move. And just like, impromptu dance with your kid, or like, I'll run. Well, there's like the hallway in the kitchen. There's a loop. I'll run around. When I had a dog, he used to chase me, and the cat just stares at me. But I wander up and down the hallways, or I did some yoga during lunch, just 30-minute yoga. I had time, and it's not enough, but it's better than nothing. So yeah, every little bit helps.
Yeah, this concrete jungle, I don't know. I don't know how to make it better. I don't think me as one person can affect that, but I wish I could get that message out, or figure out something and get a message out, but I don't know yet. I don't know the answer. You
totally are. And I don't think you realize it. By having these conversations with people, by taking the time and spending, this is a lot of time out of your evening that you're sitting down and talking to me, and we're bouncing ideas off each other, and we're getting excited, and we're getting all fired up about the idea of running into a wall when you're playing basketball. Heaven forbid hitting the floor when you play roller derby. It's exhilarating and invigorating, and people will hear that and go, hey, maybe I should try racquetball. Or, my body is hurting too much right now for roller derby, but I could probably handle some yoga. And let me tell you, that yoga with Adrienne, she's good. I learned about her from my mom, and she's like, oh, yoga, and like my cousin's a yoga instructor now, and I was like, that's the kind of asshole I am. And then and really like experience like the stretching and the breathing and the strength training, because you get down into like push-up positions and you're pushing yourself up and down and stretching that way, and I'm like, ooh, my abs and butt hurt today. It's a good hurt, right? It's not an injured hurt. I worked my body enough that my muscles said, okay, we had enough.
Yeah.
Get that enough when we sit up or do all day. So I don't think people should have to work out 3 hours a day unless they're training for a bikini competition. But just getting up and then 20 or 30 minutes of walking around the neighborhood, or getting outside, taking a breath. If you don't like outside, it's snowing out there. I'm not going out for a walk. But I could go to the mall. I really like the mall. I could go to Shields. Shields has lots of things to look at. Just walk around Costco. I love Costco. Just walk around, exercise. Try not to grab a basket, so don't buy anything.
Or the free samples.
Well, they're not doing that right now though because of COVID.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's very, very much truncated.
Gotcha. Thank you for the compliment earlier. I'm not sure if that means a lot. That I think these conversations, that's another, even though I have like big aspirations and want to like talk to people that have big impacts nationally, but like you heard me say that some of these stories are very personal, very common. Just people like, if you're between jobs, if that's a story that I think people, they get down on themselves if they're between jobs. And I've been there. I know the feeling. It's stressful. It's depressing. But to hear someone else talk about it, there's light on the end at the end of the tunnel, or how to deal with it. Maybe they have some suggestions.
Yeah. Had a job needed, and I don't use that word lightly, and it was the job that brought me here. And it was, when I interviewed for the position I have now, she asked me like, what was your win at that job? And I said, getting out of bed and going every day. But I was stubborn and didn't want to leave because I didn't want to run back home after 6 months, right? And so I started thinking about what I wanted to do next. Like, I'm going to start looking on Craigslist because that's how you found it. And see what's out there. And I started, I saw an opportunity at Banfield Pet Hospital. I was like, you know what? I love animals. I would really like to go into the pet care industry. And I didn't get the job at Banfield, but I applied for what was advertised as the best job you'll ever have, and ended up at the PetSmart Distribution Center in their maintenance department as the admin. And it was amazing. It was a great job. I loved it there. Got to the point where I didn't know where my next step was, and that's why I went to the bank. But I ended up leaving the crappy job. I was unemployed for hopefully a month or so. Did some handyman helper work, and it was hard. It is hard because you have that fear. What if I don't find something else? But I ended up falling into something really amazing, and it was a pay cut, but it was still really amazing, and I was still able. I made enough that I bought my house. So I interrupted you. You were talking about something. You were talking about big movers and shakers, but honestly, I think it's the little guys that make the world go round.
No, it definitely is. We got to think about the big shakers. They might, I don't know, like Elon Musk. He's doing the spaceships going out, and maybe he employs 5,000 people. Maybe. I guess 1 million people watch online or watch the videos, but it's probably the employees that get the most impact, I think. So it's, even though he's a big mover, but like what we're talking about, the common people, there's probably hundreds of millions of people that work in retail or work in a restaurant, and that's the important thing that I think America needs to find a way to make that, I don't know, make it just a little bit more positive. I feel like, because not that there's a negative connotation all over the place, but if you think about, you got Kanye West, you got Kim Kardashian, you got, I can't think of other big names, but if that's what's in the spotlight, what about all the small common people? That's actually the more important thing.
Mm-hmm. I don't understand the big deal about the Kanye West and the Kim Kardashians. I mean, I have, there are celebrities that I appreciate, but I don't go out and buy things because they told me to. I would be more likely to buy something because you told me to, or you recommended it to me, I should say. Kanye's shoe lines are really ugly. What do people want those? I don't want that on my feet. I appreciate actually the people making biscuits, cat food, more, I think, than the Kanye West and the Kim Kardashians of the world, because without them, I'd have to share my steak. It's important. It's important that I think everyone should feel important. And that was actually something I wanted to talk about when we had our conversation, because I think that there's definitely a glorification of certain jobs over others. And I really experienced that a lot when I worked at SeaWorld, way back when. And, because there was such a hierarchy there, and whether it was intentional or not, there was a hierarchy.
Is there cancel culture on SeaWorld right now? I'm just making a joke, but cancel culture, is SeaWorld getting hit at all, or?
SeaWorld's having a rough time right now. They've laid off a lot of people. I have a friend that he just never heard back about whether or not he had a job. I'm not sure. Maybe they have told him now that he doesn't have a job anymore. So I don't have a problem with that. Like, I really enjoyed working there. I wanted to work there more than one summer. They didn't keep me. I moved on to a higher paying position that was actually also a lot of fun. But there was a difference. You had like the park ops people, and then the education people, which is where I was at. And then you had like animal care and the trainers. The trainers were like top of the food chain, right? And I was always really friendly to everybody. And the park ops people would tell me that my coworkers didn't really, and you could tell who was who by the color shirt I wore. The park ops people would tell me that my coworkers didn't talk to them. They would just walk right by, whereas I would stop and say hello, if I had time, chat with them a little bit. And I'm like, you matter here. If you're not here, if you're not out there, sweeping and picking up trash, and we were all encouraged to pick up trash. Like, if we saw a piece of trash, we were supposed to pick up. But without you here, the park is really dirty, and nobody will want to come here because it's dirty. Without me here, it's quiet. Nothing that I do here that can't be put on, like a billboard or something. And even though, people could ask us questions and get a really good answer, without us there, it's quiet. And yet we were like glorified a little bit more than the house people, but I always thought they were. And I think that that's something that our society needs to consider. That the people who, oh my goodness, I know you guys don't really have snow down there, but I really appreciate the people who drive the big sand trucks in the plows, because when it snows, even if it doesn't stick, it gets icy. And by just driving around putting sand on the ground, even though it makes my car dirty, I'm safer. I'm more likely to make it from my house to the grocery store, to John's house, or wherever it is I'm going. It's safer. And yet we take it for granted that there are people who do that. Or even, I'm sure there's less glamorous jobs out there that people don't think about, that might be really nasty, actually. I
Yeah.
love watching dirty jobs. Like, I don't know.
Yes, for Mike Rowe.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Talk about old guys that I have a crush on. He's just like old and goofy. I like that. But I mean, he's not that old, but he definitely was younger during the Dirty Jobs days. He has a podcast, and I listen to that all the time. And he just tells stories about like history, and I like it. But there's a lot that goes on that keeps our society running. Those, like I said, those little pods, the little people that it's not the movers and shakers.
Yeah.
Except at the start, but they don't keep it going. We're all
What was that last sentence?
So I think we're all important in our own way.
Yeah. No, I agree. Talk about your roller derby stuff. That's what was some of the biggest stories, some of the worst stories. What looking back, or do you still do it today?
No.
Okay. Looking back on it, what do you reflect on it now?
So I retired from play probably 10 years ago, and
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, it seems so more recent.
Well, I retired so I played for 3 years and then I reffed for 3 years. And so that was about 7 years ago that I retired completely. It was exhilarating. I absolutely loved it. I had never found a sport that I loved to play. And I don't really love watching it. I know a lot of people do, but I loved to play. Whether I was, in the pack blocking or, jamming around that track and trying to, make the points. I love to go fast. I love to roller skate. Like, I really discovered a love of roller skating. And it was, it was a team. I had a team. I love having a team. It was fun. It was so much fun. It was really hard on my body. I was really, I quit because like massage, I quit because my back went out on me. We had a banked track, which is, there's a lot more gravity involved and it's a lot faster than flat track play. And I took a hit and almost went over the railing. And it was like Bugs Bunny, when you would see him like go flying and hit something. I'm like, it was kind of like that. And the lady who hit me is such a sweetheart. She's like, I really thought I hurt you. I'm like, yeah, can't reach my toes right now. My chiropractor was really glad when I told him that I was going to stop playing. And then, like I said, I reffed, so I still got the skating time in. I just didn't take hits anymore. But it was really hard on my body. I have a lot of shoulder issues from it. Other than that, I do okay. Like, my knees have healed. My back is mostly okay most of the time. It's just most of my shoulders. And I don't know if it was definitely roller derby, but I kind of beat them up a little bit in other ways over the years too. They got much better when I was lifting weights all the time. So when I was going through my exercise program that I went through and really working hard, it really helped a lot with that. So,
describe to me roller derby. I don't know. I actually don't really know much about roller derby. So how do you score a point? What's the strategies? What makes a good roller derby player? Which I'm guessing there's different positions, but
there are different positions. When I played, strategy was basically hit a bitch.
Well, wait, what? Hit a bitch? Is that what you said? Okay. I was like, wait, what?
I took some hits. There were times when my feet would leave the floor and would go flying. Because you play with people of all different shapes and sizes and strength, and somebody who's bigger than you might hit you really, really hard and you go flying. That's why you wear pads and helmets. But so you play roller derby on an oval shaped track, whether it's banked or flat. There's two different types. and you have a group of blockers, and they're all skating basically in a group together around the track. And then you have 2 jammers, 1 on each team. So the blockers are typically all together. They can spread out now. The rules have changed since then. And then you have your jammers who their job is they start out behind the pack. They fight their way through it with, 4 girls trying to keep them from getting through.
Oh, man.
And then you score points. So you skate all the way around the track, and then you come back through. And as you pass the players on the other team, you score points. And then there's extra points if you lap their jammer. And you've got 2 minutes to skate to make as many points as you can. So you're skating as fast as you can before you hit that wall. And it's just fun.
How many is that? 2 minutes is 1 round, or is that?
No, it depends on the jammer and her speed. His or her speed. When I played, there weren't really any men in derby. Now there's co-ed teams and male teams, and so it's really become a more integrated sport. But it depends. I don't remember what my highest scoring game was. Like how I don't remember, but it was a lot, because if you have the opportunity to score at least 4 points each round. So
Okay.
if you score, 10 to 12, it's not bad. If you're a really fast skater, you're going to get more than that. But it just depends on the pack. It depends on whether the blockers are any good, if they can keep you from getting through. I think the worst game I ever played was against Orange County, and they kicked our butts. They really did. It took me years before I'd even watched the bout footage. Like playing yourself was fun and goofy, and I have a picture in my office of me arm wrestling the girl because there was a penalty. We had to arm wrestle. And yeah, so there was, we were fun and goofy. They were pretty serious about it. So they were a more serious team than we ever made it to be. But we built our own track. We raised the money and built a bench track on our own. We had help from like one dude who help, but other than that, it was a group effort, and the track was huge. Those panels were like 400 pounds each, so it was a structure, and we all just loved it. But we got to the point where we didn't have anywhere to put the track. The whole time, and nobody would rent us space to practice. We would practice at the local roller rink, but that was flat. We couldn't put the track in there, and so we decided to go ahead with this one. And some of the ladies that I skated with then are still skating now and still rocking the crap out of it. Some of us have gotten a little bit older and sore, so we don't play, but it was still a really awesome experience.
Would you say the sport is growing or dying out, as in general, kind of nationally, or how do you see that?
I'm not sure, because once I retired, I really stepped back from it a lot. I could go skate with Varsity City. I am welcome there anytime, and left for them, but I don't want to get involved with it again because it really took up a lot of my life. And I do have a full-time boyfriend now, and I do still have my soap business, and work takes up a lot of my energy, and this guy really doesn't like it when I'm not home. So, hear him?
No, didn't hear him.
So I just choose not to. I know there was talk about trying to get it into the Olympics. There are definitely people who are just amazing athletes. They are.
What was that?
They're amazing athletes. They're just incredible athletes. Did I cut out?
Yeah, it seems to be going, I couldn't hear it. It like cuts like lower in volume. I'm not sure why.
That might be my fault. They're amazing athletes.
Oh, okay.
They can do things. They can do things that I just was never willing to try on their roller skates. putting on my skates and going to the rink and skating in circles. So.
If someone were to ask you say that someone were to say that they're interested in trying it out, what would your suggestions be?
Do it. Go do it. Go try it. Even if you hate it, just go. Go try it out and see. Because if you don't, you're gonna wish you had. And I really am trying really hard to live life by that philosophy. Like, there are a few things that I didn't do. Oh, I'm 43, so of course there's going to be regrets. I had the opportunity to go into the elephant enclosure at the Wild Animal Park once, and I was afraid that the elephants would step on me, and I have regretted it ever since. They would not have stepped on me. They're very, careful, gentle animals. My sister went to Ireland and Scotland when I was in my 20s, and I didn't go because I didn't think I had enough money, and I definitely didn't have a passport. I could have made it happen, and I wish I had, because I still haven't been to either of those places. So, if you want to try it, just do it. Just go try it.
What's your best memory from roller derby?
It's a really good question, because there's a lot of really great ones. A lot of goofy shit we did. I can't pick one.
Or I guess you could talk about a few.
I just got goosebumps. My favorite memory. The first time I rolled around the track we had just built.
First time of what?
I rolled around the track we just built.
Ah.
Like, the first time I put my skates on that track and took a loop and caught the ramp just right, because it's parabolic, so you gain speed, and that I think is my favorite memory, is being on that track.
What's a favorite team accomplishment?
Forming teams was an accomplishment, and I know that sounds weird. But
what was it? Four-man team?
No, forming them. Actually having
forming teams
in our league to form multiple teams so that we could play against each other, instead of just like drawing numbers out of a hat to figure out who was going to play who this time. That was definitely an accomplishment, to be able to be like, okay, we've got, 4 teams of 12 or whatever it was. Have enough women regularly there and sticking with it was kind of amazing. I was part of the board of directors, so I was involved with the running of the league in addition to playing. So, those kind of administrative things were also accomplishments.
What's your most exhilarating moment that you could remember?
I feel like it's a time when I broke through that pack and scored a whole lot of points. Because I played both. I played both in the pack and the jammer. I never settled on one position. I feel like just getting, you broke through that pack and you realize that, no one's got you, and you can just go like that. That might be the best feeling. I mean, other than skating that track and feeling it's like it pushes you. It rumbles and rolls and it pushes you along. Building the track was pretty difficult. Had a lot of stuff going on.
That other moment you said, were you as a jammer were you a jammer getting through the pack, and then you knew you were going to score a bunch of points? Yeah. What's it like going through a pack? I mean, to be on 2 feet with wheels, everybody else has 2 feet and wheels, and just the amount of, the chances of falling down, it's got to be massive, right? I imagine.
It depends on how you skate. So you'll notice that, if you ever watch roller derby skaters, they don't skate tall like figure skaters would. They skate low. So you lower your center of gravity and you're less likely to be knocked over. So you get hit, but You might get knocked out of bounds, but you're less likely to actually hit the floor. It was always fun to me to be a blocker and to get in front of the jammer and, just get my booty right in front of her and she can't get around it. She's like, I'm getting mad. They start getting mad. And I'm like, so it's very, it's playful, it's silly. It's serious too. Like don't get me wrong. We were very playful and silly. There are people who take it very, very seriously. But definitely that feeling of breaking through, and it's hard. It's hard to be in the pack. And you once you hit that pack that those other 4 ladies are coming for you. They're coming for you, and they're gonna get you, and they're gonna get you as hard as they can.
Yeah.
Right, and keep you from, keep you from gaining points and to help their person through. So,
what's the? Is there dirty tricks or dirty tactics that other teams have used on you?
There are definitely dirty tricks. You're not supposed to throw elbows.
Okay.
You're not supposed to hit anybody in the back.
But throwing the butt is fine?
Yeah. Your booty's got some padding. Booty's mine. But you can use your hips. You can use your shoulders. You can, push with this area of your arm. You can get in front of people and slow way down. So they just, skate back and forth so they can't get in front of you. I once saw a player turn and hit somebody in the sternum. Yeah.
Like punched or elbow or?
Punched.
Oh.
I saw someone turn and elbow somebody and break their nose.
Oh, geez.
Not in our game that time, although I did see her. We won't get into that. There's YouTube video of that one. I've seen tripping. You can catch people's wheels. You can accidentally trip them. Get your leg in their way, get your leg caught up in theirs. There's things and those things happen on accident. But ankles get broken. With roller derby, it's not a matter of how you're gonna get hurt or whether you're gonna get hurt. It's when.
Yeah.
So you're just kind of one fall away from your next major injury, basically.
Wow.
But yeah, it can get ugly if you're not fixed. I was always a very safe player. I tried to, because I didn't want to hurt people. I was playing with my friends. We were a recreational league, so I didn't want to injure people and make it so they couldn't play anymore.
Yeah, when I play racquetball, I guess my personality really, I think, shows in racquetball. I have my whole way in life is try to do more good than bad, and then don't try to get in people's way. That's almost my entire philosophy. Just take care of yourself and don't get in people's way. Racquetball, it's once you get very advanced in racquetball, the best sentence I think I could come up with is, you're not allowed to get in someone's way, but you're allowed to be an inconvenience. And the whole game is about being an inconvenience to your opponent. And it gets almost, for the advanced players that are good at it, it's literally them trying to be in the way all the time, but within game rules or game, and it's, I don't know, I have a little bit of a beef with that. I live my life not trying to be in someone's way all the time.
Right.
So racquetball, you try to hit the ball in an area, and then they have to run around you, and you're allowed to be there because you just hit the ball. As long as the ball doesn't hit you, you place the ball on the other side between you. The ball is on the other side between that person and you. So if I'm describing it right, so they have to run around either to the front of you or to the back of you to get to the ball, and you're in the way. I mean, that is the strategy of racquetball. It's a weird thing. I feel like 99% of the time I run out of the way to make sure that they could get to the ball, and that's not how you play racquetball. So
yeah, I had to learn to hit people. I I didn't want to hit people, but that is how the game is played. You have to hit people. It's very, very physical. You're going very fast. You're hitting very hard. And what's funny is that I became more aggressive for being a roller derby player. And so I had to be really careful if, say, I went to the mall and somebody got in my way, that I didn't just like knock them out of the way. There was one game we were playing against Quincy, which is it's a town just north of here, and it was a friendly game, but I hit their team captain so hard she went flying out the door. And she and I were friends. We're legitimately hung out together, friends. And it became very hard for me not to bring that same level of physical contact to my regular life, because I was so immersed in it, and that's how I played all the time. It became like I would literally have to remind myself at the mall to step out of somebody's way politely if they were coming. I didn't. I was just like, you should have stepped out of my way.
In roller derby, it's correct to put the booty in the way, but at a mall, it's kind of sexual.
Right, yeah. You don't want to be sticking your booty in people's mouths at the mall. It's really quite frowned upon in most polite society. But, it's still fun to like, I have bonus kids, and it's fun to wrestle around with them a little bit, and they'll come up and bump me, and I'm like, you don't want to do that. And they'll bump me harder, and I don't move. I'm like, you really don't want to do that. So I would never hurt them, but, I might give them a gentle little bump with my hips, and they go flying, and I'm like, so,
yeah, I used to play basketball a lot when I was in my probably like 14, 15, 16 years old. I mean, to the extent where I was playing like 7 days a week, 1 to 3 hours a day. And the physicality in basketball, the things that you're allowed to it's called boxing out. So if your teammate just shot for the basket, and then you're about to go for the rebound, you're allowed to use all your body, pretty much, I think, from elbows and in. You're not allowed to use your forearms or your hands to push someone, but as long as you, I forget, I think you're allowed to use your elbows, up to your elbows and in. So you put your entire body and you kind of hold them behind you and push them out. And I love that. I mean, I would be I'm not a big dude, I'm short. So I'd take the big, I don't care who it is, I'm going to box them out. I'll put all my weight, get my center of gravity as low as I can. And at that time, I was pretty fit, so I used every inch, every muscle, and I would just try to box them out. It was fun. Anything within the rules of the game, it was fun.
Yeah, I definitely tried to keep it within the rules of the game.
Yeah.
Like I said, that's how people get hurt, and I didn't want to hurt anybody. I did occasionally,
Yeah.
It's just a game.
Yeah.
But never intentionally.
Yeah.
So there was one time when I got really angry at somebody, and I really, really wanted to. It wasn't during a game; it was in practice. I really wanted to punch her in the face, and I just went and skated by myself for a little while. That wasn't the appropriate way to do that. But yeah. When you play those full body contact kind of sports, you do become a little bit more aggressive if you weren't already. And it could definitely be detrimental if you can't switch that off. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna go. Try it. It's fun.
Sounds like a lot of fun. I'm going to go to your second question on your list. Did you go to college to do what you do?
I did not. I went to trade school to be a massage therapist. I no longer do that. I have a table. I was, working on friends every so often here and there. I just haven't had time for it now. But yeah, no, I honestly thought I was going to have a long career as a massage therapist, and that's not where life took me. I've learned to kind of go with the flow. Every time I think, for so long in my youth, I should say, because I've got some plans for the future that I really want to hold to. I would be on this trajectory and I'd just get sideswiped and things would change. So I learned to kind of go with the flow and take things as they come, and my career is no different. Um, so yeah, I really thought I loved being a massage therapist. I loved working with people, helping their bodies to heal and to, it was very physical. It was very fun. It was a good time. But I wore myself out, and carrying that table up and down stairs and putting it in my car, and maybe I didn't have the best posture and all the different things that go along with being a body worker. I just took myself out. So I did that for about 5 years, on top of like a couple other jobs that I had at the same time. I was full time for maybe a month, and I didn't have enough clientele to sustain myself. So I didn't quit, but I definitely went and got a job at the cabinet shop and worked there for a while. So
Yeah, I think through my career, I mean, even for me, I went into computer networks, and then I jumped into computer programming just by chance. So I mean, I went to school for something else than what I'm working in. And then through my career, just meeting a bunch of people through work, I want to say it felt like around 50%. I don't know if that's an accurate number nationwide, but it felt like 50% of the people that I talked to asked them what they went to school for, and it wasn't what they were currently working on. So that, kind of jumping back to what you said earlier about it seems unhealthy for our nation, our society, to put kids through college. I mean, we change so much throughout the years. How are we going to know what we want to do when we're 19 years old or 18? That's just crazy to spend anywhere between $30,000 up to $150,000 or more for certain universities and whatnot. And then I want to say, go ahead.
oh, I know people who will be paying on their school loans for the rest of their lives, if not longer.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that was the right way to go for them, right? To go to college and get their degree. And I think about it sometimes, and I'm like, oh wait, I fall asleep in class. But I don't have school loans hanging over my head. I had them, but they were low enough that I was able to pay them off. And I love trade school for that. Like, you can go and you can learn something that, I mean, we have a mutual friend that went to trade school and was making, 6 figures as an electrician. I loved it. So you don't have to go to college to be successful. You should really, I think the best success is going and doing what you love. I interrupted you.
Yeah. What was that last part? Do what you love, and then.
I interrupted you.
Earlier when you said that even in the last I think you said 7 years, you feel that you've changed a lot in yourself. That's where I'm at in my life, where I want to say around 30, 31 years old. I'm 37 now, 38, 37, 30, 37. And, and then 31 was where things, I don't know what it was. It felt like I was a different person. If I had to just break up my life into almost two pieces, it almost feels like I'm a different person, where I've taken the years of working in a job, and then I almost feel, more importantly, the years sitting at those jobs, and at a point, it was probably around 26, 27 years old, I just started reading a lot of, not even just regular books. No, I actually didn't really read books. It was just reading and watching documentaries, reading articles, finding as much information online about a specific topic that I was interested in. Space was a lot of it. Just a lot of documentaries. I spent every night just nonstop watching documentaries. I'm almost a nutcase in that, where that's all I watch exclusively is just documentaries. I want to learn something. If I watch like one or two episodes, probably of King of Thrones, whatever the TV show that everyone loves, I probably could watch one and then kind of get bored of it. Everybody that suggests all these TV shows, I go check them out, and I'm like, and then I'm back to my documentaries every night. I mean, I've been doing kind of this routine for what feels like 10 years, or it's just nonstop documentaries or reading articles. And it's weird. I don't know of anybody that when I say this, they're like, oh, I do that too. No, I haven't heard a single person that says this. But that has morphed me where I feel like my second part of my life, or the second chapter, is so different than the first chapter. So different. First chapter was just being well, I don't even know if I should call it the third chapter now, because the first chapter, when you're a teenager, you're just so many hormones, so many sexual thoughts, that now that when you think back, you're like, geez, what the heck? Like, you were a different person. Like, I wish there was more public information about this, and maybe not just one class when you're in high school about sex education, just and then maybe more information, more classes on financial training. Like, there's none of that in school. And unfortunately, my mom and the people that raised me, I understand raising children is a big deal, so I can't like tell them, I can't say that they did a bad job. I think they did a good job for what they had. But if they would have taught me a little bit about finances, or hey, when you get out to the work life, it's going to be 9 to 5, or when you get out in the work life, you're going to be able to maybe take a vacation once a year, maybe, depending on your how well you do with your job, or other things that I wish they would say, hey, you're going to be a short Asian guy trying to go against maybe tall white men, tall Mexican people, and they might get the job because they look the part. You may look really young, and that's going to be really tough on your career. Not that I feel like I've done very well for myself, but there's times where I know there was things that were out of my control. I wish someone would have just kind of let me know about that, and it would have maybe helped me not be sad at certain points in my life, and take it out on myself.
Right.
So man, that was a bunch of stuff I just threw in there, but yeah, I don't know.
Hard. I think that we aren't prepared to go out into the world in many, many ways. Not just educationally, but emotionally. I don't remember how you transitioned from high school into the world. Like, I don't remember. I just remember you were just one day living with a bunch of the guys, and we all come over to the house and party.
Oh yeah, those were some good days.
Yeah, they were, but that was like your late teens and into your early 20s, and that was my like early, well, not even to late 20s, but we would just like hang out and play. And that was, I miss those days. Like, I miss being able to, just screw around, and you guys were like gluing aluminum cans to the wall. And, like,
those men.
You and your cousins and your brother would do some of the weirdest shit, like painting racing stripes on Emmett's Escort. Showed up one day, or you guys would come over and hang out at our place and play video games late into the night, and just like Rampage and Mario Kart all night long.
Yes, good old days. And then Dance Dance Revolution.
Yeah, I remember when the neighbor got like upset because the floor was.
I don't remember that one, but I'm sure.
The floor was just moving, like their ceiling and your floor was just maybe a little too much flex. Yeah, we would just, I don't know, we'd go to the movies, we'd go to the beach, we'd go do, whatever, and hang out. And then, we all go, I don't want to use the term grown up because I don't feel like a grown up. But I've learned, this is what I've learned, that there's no such thing as a grown up. It's just old kids.
Yeah, I completely agree.
That got old and all kind of went, well, I've got bills to pay now, but I still feel like I should be hanging out watching video games, But yeah.
When I was 20, gosh, how old was I? 29, 30, 31. So me and Emmett were working on that Cafe Hoppa business plan.
Yeah.
So part of the research, we actually interviewed a lot of business owners, a lot. And you know what the sad conclusion for me was out of all that? So many business owners. I mean, I talked to people that were running like $500,000 restaurant. I talked to someone that ran a hair salon for 17 years. Talked to, yes, talked to someone that inherited a coffee shop from their parents, and they ran it, I think 30, 40 years later still. You know what the sad thing out of talking to so many business owners, and then actually later on Emmett, that he also carried that into his bartending job, where he started just asking people if they what they do for work, and a lot of them were business owners at the bar. So even with his stories, added on the same conclusion that I had then, which was we're a bunch of little kids that don't even understand what we're doing. That's all these business owners. They either inherited money, they had parents that could help out, or they did something. They borrowed money and they got lucky. None of them had these. I was hoping for these nuggets, these golden nuggets of information that they would say, oh, when you get to this point in your business, do not do this insurance. When you get this point in your business, do not hire these type of people. There's not a single person had. It was
that stop you from doing it. Like,
yeah. It really. I mean, when I think about because my mom basically raised me without my dad, and then we had remember my aunt and uncle Cam and Mark.
mm-hmm.
There were things that, I mean, as a kid you look back and maybe they treated you unfair at certain times, but you got to, for me, I try to think like, well, I have what I have now. Back then I was never starving. I had a place to sleep. Every kid has probably some bad memories here and there, certain things, and maybe I wish they would have taught me a little bit more about finances, because when I went into my early 20s, it was a weird mental issue that I had, where it was like spending money. I had this, like, I don't know if it was just being that my mom didn't have a lot of money while at that age. So there was this thing in my head when in my 20s, I was like, I wanted to buy toys, not toys, but like I wanted to buy a computer, I wanted to buy clothes, I wanted to buy shoes. And I went in debt. Like I put it on credit cards. It was the stupidest thing. I bought so many things, like tens of thousands of dollars. It was stupid, so stupid. Now, is it possible if my mom, my aunt, or uncle taught me that about finances then, would it have curbed it or fixed it? I don't know, but I just wish that they might have been able to tell me about paying bills, and maybe I would have been more thoughtful about getting into debt and stuff. So
I think that, credit cards are such, I mean, they're a great tool in certain ways, but you have to use them correctly, and you have to be really responsible.
Oh yeah.
I feel like a 19, 20-year-old, 43-year-old doesn't really have the thought, like I'm in a mode of my life right now where I'm wanting to move back to San Diego, and I'm still several years out from that, but that dream keeps me from doing stupid stuff. So, like, yes, I do need to buy a new couch, but I'm trying to pay cash for that, or what can I do to fix up my home so I get a higher price for it when it sells? This object that I'm picking up in the store that, 5 years ago I might have been like, ooh, I'll buy it because I can. Now I'm like, you know what? I don't need this thing. I don't need to spend that extra money. And yes, I do carry credit card debt, but I can think about whether or not I actually need something or want.
Mm-hmm.
Do I actually want something, or is it just like an immediate? Am I buying it to satisfy this immediate need, and I'm not even going to like look at it? I'm going to forget that I even have it, And I did that when I lived in the apartment on Graham Terrace, when I moved out of there, I found, I don't know if you remember what a total mess my house always was, because I would go shopping and I was filling a hole, and I would come home and I'd just drop those bags and be on to the next thing. And I found bags that had been on that floor for I don't even know how long, with brand new stuff in there, and things that I had bought twice because I forgot that I purchased them. And I had to teach myself like boundaries, right? Like boundaries I never learned from my mother. Um, so like even now, however many years later, I'll go. Sorry, cat scratching on the furniture. Um, do I need this? Where am I going to put this? What am I going to do with it? Um, you know, before I even bring it home. And it's still a struggle, but I can at least put things through that filter. If I don't want to go on a shopping spree, I don't pick up a shopping cart. I will only buy what I can carry. And that's really helpful at Costco because everything's so big, I can only carry so much. I can't buy something if I can't fit it in my car, right? Right? So there's just like little things that there are little tricks that I've developed for myself that I never learned from my mom, because my mom grew up without a lot of money. And so when she did have money, she was like, just get it, you deserve it. And
What was that?
just get it, you deserve it. Like, you deserve whatever that thing is. And I don't really deserve another $30 hank of yarn. Like, maybe if I get through some of what I already have, I can have another one. But there were no boundaries. She never taught me to set boundaries on my spending. So I
Yeah.
And it adds up quick. And with credit cards, you're borrowing from your future. You're paying somebody else and borrowing from your future. So unless you have a 0% forever, eventually you're going to end up paying way more for that item by putting it on a credit card, unless you're good with it. Like John is really good with his money. He uses his credit cards, but he'll use it, and as soon as he uses it, he goes out to the cards and pays it off. So, he's got that discipline. I don't have. So, he can use them responsibly, but I would say 99.9% of our population does not use those responsibly. To that, and then they're like, what do I do?
Yeah, we're like kind of jumping that or connecting that with we're all big kids, handling credit cards, handling life. And I think I forgot to connect it where I was saying my aunt, uncle, and mom, the way that they raised me, when I think about it, their kids, they're just big kids too, raising a kid. And then I think about my grandma, and then the stories of my uncle's mom. Like it sounded like it was kids raising kids. It's just the cycle.
Yeah. Your grandmother is an interesting lady. I didn't know how to handle her. I didn't know what to do because we didn't speak the same language, and I don't think she liked me for your uncle. So,
no, don't blame yourself if you ever do on that. The I think only recently, and this is almost to me kind of surprising that I could only at least connect these dots recently, if it's even truly connected, meaning I don't know if my theory is correct. But back in 1975 with the Vietnam War, and then I hear scientists and doctors say that kids, especially at younger than the age of 14, the brain is still developing. So to have dramatic events that happen. Now, looking at other Vietnamese families, I think it feels like my family is a little bit, there is a mental illness going on, I theorize. So you add that from potentially my grandma, and then the aunts and uncles that I have. It's a genetic thing. So add in the war on top of that too. So, some of my aunts were, I think they were 7, 9, 13 years old during the war, if I'm doing the math correctly. So there between the genetic issues and then the war itself, that's so to some degree I used to be very some of the as being raised under that growing up, I actually used to be very angry and think about how they treated me, like why did they treat me that way. But now I actually I turned it where I turned the feeling into, oh, that's why. It's too bad that they have that condition, or it's too bad that things turned out like that. And I'm not a psychologist, so this is all stuff I'm just guessing from all the documentaries that I've watched. So I just have to figure out what's best for my life, and when I can incorporate them, I can. But if it's too much of a toxic relationship, I have to push away. I used to, when I didn't know this, I used to try to force it and try to work things out with them, and I think it's not working. I don't think it can. Not that I don't know how to work it. So even today, I don't know how to work it. So I need to just stay away from them if any of those things arise.
Yeah.
So.
I don't think I don't take it personally. I know that I was very young. I mean, I was like 18, 19, and just not very worldly, you know. And your grandmother wanted what was best for her son, and she did not think I was what was best for her son. And honestly, you know, in hindsight, 25 years later, or however long it's been a really long time. We had flourished apart more than we ever. I mean, we had a growing together and a good relationship, but you know, we went in different directions. And I think that he's much happier and better matched with his wife. But yeah, the reason I brought her up was actually, she was amazing with money. That woman could go to the grocery store.
Oh yeah.
And they would owe her money, and
Yeah.
she gave us some coupons and sent us to the store one time, and it's like, give them these, buy this, give them these, and they will give you money back. And sure enough, like, they give us money back. I don't think they do double coupons anymore, but man, she was a whiz with that stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of weird stuff, but she was really quite amazing with that, and I do miss it. You really do. But yeah, it was, I don't know, it was a good experience for me to be involved with your family. And you know, you boys, the nephews, I always felt like, you know, a member of the gang with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel quite so welcomed by your aunts. Just, I think because I don't know, maybe they knew that I didn't really belong with your uncle. So
what was that?
maybe they knew I didn't really belong with your uncle. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
No, it really was the I think there's a bit of a paranoia schizophrenia going on. So I see it throughout. I mean, even for me, when I dated, it was funny when I dated an Asian girl, and my mom would she would say, yeah, be careful with her. She's Filipino. You should really be careful with her, because she'll steal your money or something. I'm like, okay, is it better that I date a white girl? And my mom's like, no, they'll take advantage of you. I was like, okay, so should I date a Mexican girl? She's like, no, they're too trashy. I'm like, okay, should I date a Vietnamese girl? And she's like, no, you still got to be careful with them. I'm like, what do you want me to do? So,
I'm a young man, and I would like to be dating someone. Thank you. I think that in some cases, and not all moms are like this, but I think that there are some moms out there for whom there's no right answer to who should my son date. And I know, because your uncle has talked a little bit about his mom's opinions on him dating white girls, that, you know, I don't think I would have ever been the right choice for him in her eyes. But, you know, he just wasn't you weirdo. Sorry, cat. Yeah, it was just weird. It was a weird time. It was a very weird time.
And then on top of that, I mean, for all of us in our, I mean, whether it be 18 years old, 19, whether 14, 16, and then even to our late 20s, some of us are still finding ourselves like, for me, I tell Emmett that I think I get jealous of him at times, only because I think about where he was raised and his opportunities, where if he's half white living in America, for me, this was a whether it's right or wrong, this was my perspective. I went to West Hills High School, and it was like 99% white people. So I'm fighting an image in my head that says, I want to fit in. I don't want to have yellow skin. So that was something that I was fighting inside of myself. So I spent so much time thinking that I actually feel like it hampered my education. Seriously, I was too focused on that when I should have been learning whatever else, computer programming or math or whatever. So yeah, as we grow, we go through so many things. I know everybody probably has some type of demon in their head like that. So that was just my demon. I know we all grow and change, and the things that we experience, whether it be my grandma and what you experience, and then I mean, I have my stories with my grandma too. So they're confusing then. We're all just kids, and then we turn into older kids. That's it.
Yeah. But what I'm learning in some classes that I'm taking right now is that they're online, so I don't have to worry about falling asleep. And if I do, I just resume later. Is that we all have programming that we have, from the time that we're really little, and that kind of creates who we become and the things that we believe about ourselves and our surroundings. And it's important that you can step back and go, just because I was taught this, my mom, my uncles, my grandmother, whoever, doesn't necessarily mean it's true. I can change that about myself. Like if you want to. Like you're fantastic the way you are. But if you wanted to change something, you don't have to be who they say you are. And that's why I focus so much on I don't have to be who I was 10 years ago. And I also try to allow other people to grow too. I don't want people to be static in my brain. I don't want to think you are the same person you were 10 years ago, because you're probably not. Like, I hope that you grow and develop as a human being. And 10 years ago, you were 27, so your brain was actually not that far off from being done developing. Like, physiologically and emotionally, you have a lot of development that happens as a human male before the age of like 26. I think is right about that time. With females, I think is like 22. But it helps me to better understand my bonus kids, because I've been with them since they were 9 and 11, and they're now 15 and 16, and they're so different, and it was helpful for me to know when they were driving me crazy. They're not developed yet. They're being illogical. Well, they haven't developed logic yet, so just sit back and be quiet. Try not to, go take a nap, and realize that human beings don't develop certain things. They don't develop that sense of other people until they're much older. I've learned that and this helped me understand myself as a small child more. Small children live in like a fantasy land. So they're they wander around and they're just in their little bubble in a fantasy land, and they do weird things. And it's not because they're bad. It's because they're, maybe they're slaying dragons in their head, but they just, cut open the couch or, things like that. And it's not that that should be encouraged, but at least maybe understood that they're not being malicious usually. They just haven't developed that that sense of anything beyond their own heads. They haven't realized that other people are people too. And, that's something that we develop as we get older. And we do mature even if we don't turn into grown-ups. And so it's just weird. It's weird that we don't know that. And I guess it wouldn't really soak in as a kid, but I think that adults should learn that so that they.
And it's weird that adults don't teach us that. Like, why don't we hear somebody talk about this and explain to kids, like, hey, probably up to the age of 7, you're gonna kind of think you're somebody else, and you're gonna probably change between 7, 14, and then 14 to 22. I feel like, I guess I heard some of that when I was younger, but it wasn't clear enough.
It's because you hadn't grown logic yet.
Huh.
It would make sense to a small kid, like, hey, I understand you're having, and you can tell them that, like, I understand you're having imaginary playtime, but it's not okay for you to cut a hole in the couch. Things like that, but they don't really understand, oh, your brain hasn't developed yet enough, so you have to keep it really simple because they're not going to understand it.
Well, even like, say, in college, maybe they should have some classes on that, but I don't know. Maybe it should be part of the general education in college.
Or maybe high school, you start learning that kind of stuff. Because, you hit high school, your body's developing. You talked a little bit about having raging hormones. Things happen, people get pregnant. And, if you can at least, and these are kids having kids, right? These are kids who are not developed in their own brain, being expected to raise other people. And it's hard. Like, there are some success stories. I think my mom is one. But she was 18 when my sister was born, but she was 17 and pregnant and married, So I think there are success stories, but I think as part of, like, being a kid, like, I think I watched the miracle of life in between junior high and high school, like, 4 times. I have seen the sperm hit the egg. I know how that works. Tell me a little bit more about your life, how my brain works. What it's, like you said, some financial education, what it's going to be like when I'm out on my own and have to pay bills. I know we don't write checks anymore, but there's a lot of kids that used to come out of high school and had never written a check or didn't know how to clean the kitchen because their mom always did that. There's a lot of life skills. I don't know if you had, like, home ec or anything like that. But
yeah, I had one home ec class. They did sewing, cooking. I remember those, sewing and cooking.
Right, and I had those too. I had sewing, cooking, woodshop, and art in junior high. And so we kind of learned our way around the kitchen, but there's a lot of kids that just, their parents don't teach them that. And I think it's an important skill. I always worry about those kids. What are they going to do when they go to college? We don't learn how to feed ourselves. Oh my God, we don't learn how to feed ourselves. Because we grow up and we've got, usually like cereal or spaghetti or whatever, but we don't learn proper portions. We don't learn how food affects us. We don't learn that we're handed water bottles and told to drink, but we're not told how, like, water affects our digestion and our, like, blood, and, just the different things, how our brains work, and what happens when you get dehydrated. We don't learn that stuff. We learn, like, sperm and egg.
Yeah. The food portion one's an interesting one, because when I was 16 or 17, I was eating so much. It was insane. I was probably eating 4 to 5, probably about 5 times more than I eat today. Right. Because when I was playing basketball 3 hours a day, up to 3 hours a day, 7 days a week, like, I was burning calories like crazy. So and then the body's growing too, so it needs those nutrients. But nobody ever said, hey, when you're about 19 or 20, you enter the work field. If you do, you might be sitting at a desk and you maybe you should cut down your eating.
Yeah. Well, and then there's the whole, like, clean your plate thing. And I know you went through this. I know I went through this. Like, here is your, I remember being a kid, and here is your giant bowl of, for me it was pinto beans. For you it was probably pho. And like you have to eat all that. And it's like a bowl that's bigger than your head.
Yeah.
You have to eat all that. So I learned to overeat all the time and ignore when my body said, hey, I'm done. And I do when I eat pho, I'm like, I'm going to eat all this because it's good. But, I think when I was, in my early 20s, I would eat the big bowl and no problem. Eat like not a problem at all. And I struggled with my weight a lot. I've always kind of, like, since I stopped being a teenager, I've struggled with my weight because I just ate too much. And the stuff I was eating was not good.
Yeah.
It's that kind of like, yes, you can have Twinkies, but maybe not eat the whole box. Maybe have like one a week. We don't learn. We just learn like it's either do eat that or don't eat that. So, and eat these big portions because you can. You go to the restaurant and they're like whatever restaurant, especially American style restaurant, and they give you a giant plate full of food, and it's not going to be as good when you warm it up. So you eat all of it, and then you sit. And your body So, but yeah, I never learned to stop eating quite as much. When, like, I would still try to eat the same amount that I ate when I was a teenager and was, active and stuff like that as an adult, sitting behind a desk. I'm like,
Yep.
we don't learn how to properly take care of ourselves.
What was that last part?
We don't learn to properly take care of ourselves unless we have a parent who is, like a fitness coach or something like that. Like my fitness coach pre-prepped her son's meals, and he might have macaroni and cheese, but it was all portioned and proper macros, and he worked out in their garage gym every day and all that kind of stuff. That's because she's a coach.
Yeah.
Most of us don't have that opportunity. Like, we don't have personal coaches as teenagers unless we're athletes, like Olympic athletes. So we just don't learn. We don't learn how to take care of ourselves.
What habits do you have that greatly impact your life?
Ooh, that's.
You know what? I think that one of my guests told me I changed the words. It was improve. What greatly improves your life? So I actually think I like that word better. What greatly impacts and/or improves your life?
So my life is built around habits. And when I don't follow my habits, I tend to derail really quickly. So I think I'm on to be quiet. I'm not sure. I'm trying to think of what habits I have that are positive habits. I definitely eat breakfast. I eat, like, if I eat crap the rest of the day, I have eaten a healthy breakfast. I have an omelet with, very little else. I had spinach in there today. It was delicious, and some blueberries and usually some oatmeal. So getting my day started with a good, solid breakfast. If I eat other things, I'm like, ugh. I've definitely developed a good breakfast habit. I'm trying to develop a habit of do it now so that I can stop procrastinating. Even if it's like, oh, the toilet is dirty. And instead of doing it later, there's a brush right there, there's soap right there, I'll do it now. And then I don't have to worry about it later. And that's really been beneficial for me at work because, I get a lot of requests for my attention and my expertise. And so if I don't do it now, it might not get done. So I've been really trying to just do it now. I think past that, like, I'm trying to drink more water and I'm trying to take more Gina time. I know that the phrase self-care is very popular right now. And for me, that might just mean that I'm flossing my teeth more, or that I take those little walks around my house throughout the day instead of sitting at my desk all day. That 30 minutes of yoga every other day, grabbing the cat and smooshing on him for a while. He's very smooshy. It's all like, I'll lift him up and he really just lets me do whatever. But I'll pick him up and like lay my head on his chest and listen to his heartbeat and his purrs, and it calms me down. And it's just, little things that I can do throughout the day that are good for me, that are healthy for my heart.
That's good. Yeah, I do. For me, there's a point. It's not quantifiable. It's just I feel when I start piling up tasks, that the things that I need to do, there's like a stress level that is not quantifiable, but I feel it in my blood pressure. Maybe that's what, I don't know what I feel it as, but once it builds up, I need to address those items and not take anything more. I need not to add on. Get rid of some of those items so I could breathe. I could feel that. I don't know how to describe that for someone that I wouldn't know how to describe for someone to find that in themselves, but that's how I feel. So I find that super important. I see that often when in the workplace, that I see that in them, and I just tell them like, hey, you have a lot of stuff that you got to do. You need to figure out a way to just not take on more so that you could clear out your plate or something, however you want to word it. And they kind of look at me and they don't even understand. They don't fathom it. And I don't know how to. I feel like they just stress themselves out, and it's a terrible cycle because they're constantly stressed, adding more things on their plate.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to look at your list and take care of the low-hanging fruit so you can cross it off and be done with it, and then focus on the things that are bigger. I'm a big list maker. In fact, it gets so bad that I'm like, okay, wait, my list is stressing me out, so I'm gonna like break it down and maybe do these things today and push those other things off till tomorrow. Because they're not urgent. I listen to a lot of like podcasts about managing your time and managing your life, and that's one of the things that they talk about is the Eisenhower theory, and triaging things and determining like what is like an emergency and what is urgent and what actually isn't actually urgent. If you can like somebody steps there, you're in the hospital, you have the guy that just like had their leg cut off and they're bleeding out, or you have the guy that like maybe broke his arm, but it's not compound, so maybe you can wait a little bit, and then you have the guy over here who stubbed their toe. Which one are you going to take care of first? Well, you got to take care of the guy who's bleeding out, and it definitely helps to determine what you should be doing first. Sometimes the guy who stubs his toe, like it stops hurting and it goes away.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay, next question. What do you find most interesting of Vietnamese culture?
Oh, that's a good one. It is a fascinating culture. It really, really is. I would like to visit Vietnam someday and just kind of wander around and soak it in, because I really developed an appreciation for it from language. I think I like from language because never learned to speak it. I would mispronounce something and find out that I just said like booger or something like that, and I'd lose my marbles and start giggling, and that would be the end of the lesson forever. But it is a beautiful language, and some language that most people don't. It doesn't really occur to them that Vietnamese is sung.
What was that last part?
It's sung rather than spoken. It is not like. It's not monotone, and changing the tone changes the word.
Oh, yes.
It's a singing language. It is sung. It's not spoken. So but that's really, really a cool thing. And when somebody pointed that out, I was like, oh, and how come I don't get it? But that's okay. I'm just not a linguist. But yeah, I do love to hear the language, and I'll sit and listen.
I like that. I haven't heard that it's a language that's sang and not spoken. That sounds pretty cool.
But if you think about it, I mean, you change that tone and it's a totally different word.
Yeah, completely.
It's a language of tones. It's sung.
Yeah. What's your favorite Vietnamese dish?
So because I'm talking to you, I'll tell you it's tikka.
I saw your Facebook picture on that.
I was so excited when Mint gave me that recipe. I was just like, oh my gosh, I can finally eat it again. It's been 20 years, right?
Oh my goodness.
I hadn't had it since like since your uncle and I stopped seeing each other, and your mom and
Yeah.
grandma stopped making it. So, and even then, it was a treat, right? So I do love that. I also love a good bowl of pho. If anybody else were to ask me what my favorite food is, like my favorite food is pho.
Wow.
Do enjoy a good pile of food as well. So, I really like Vietnamese food. I think almost more than American food.
Wow. How would you describe tit kha if somebody had no idea what it was?
It's like a sticky, kind of sweet umami. It's very umami meat dish that you eat on rice.
I'll have to send you my wife's recipe. She makes a pretty darn good tit kha.
I look forward to it. I really want to play around with it and add a little, because the recipe that Mick gave me is very simple, just sugar and fish sauce and meat.
No, that's actually the reason why. Yeah, it's a super simple dish, and that's a big reason why you may not find it in many Vietnamese restaurants, because it's kind of like a home cooked dish. Like it's so easy that restaurants probably don't want to add it to the menu because it's just so simple.
Yeah, which it's been hard. Like over the years, I'm like, maybe they have it. I look at every menu. But I might add some garlic to it. Maybe he suggested some white pepper. So just a couple of things that would be authentic to the area, but not change the dish too much. So
Yeah.
I did experiment with it. John liked it, so I can
Awesome.
make it like that.
Yeah, with cooking with fish sauce can be like, say if John didn't like it, that'd be tough for you, because even if you just wanted to eat it, you could cook it, but then he would have to smell it. So that yeah.
Sauce. He actually, our first date was to we had fun.
Oh, awesome.
We had on OkCupid, and we're talking, and he's like, how about we meet up tonight? I'm like, okay, and he's like, well, I know of this Vietnamese place. Do you like pho? And I was like,
Number one choice.
I'd like that, but no, I was like, heck yeah, that's my favorite food. So that was our first date.
Awesome. What do you know and think of cryptocurrency?
So I'm aware of it. When it first came out, I was working, first started gaining popularity, I should say. I'm sure it's been around for far longer than I've been aware of it. I was working at the bank, and I was like, they're going to start regulating that shit. So I don't know if they've done that yet. It's been 7 years since I left the bank, but I think it's interesting. I like that it's getting to be more mainstream, because it's, it is an alternative currency, and not necessarily, I think Bitcoin is traded on the stock market, but it's not as dependent on the whims of business. It's weird. It's weird that way. I don't have any. I know we talked about it in depth one day. I stole your attention for a while to talk about what I should do as far as investing in some, and I haven't. But I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, you know me. I love cryptocurrency. On your thought of if the government would regulate it, I don't. From a technological standpoint, they can't regulate it. Now, from a human perspective, if the U.S. government were to say all U.S. citizens that, I don't even know if they could legally do that. Can the U.S. government say every U.S. citizen? Well, they kind of already. If they were to regulate and say every U.S. citizen, if you have any amount of Bitcoin, you have to report it to the IRS of any quantity. I think that would be probably not something in there that they can do.
So
Sorry, from a governmental perspective, I don't think they would do that.
because
that would.
So
What was that?
they might try.
They would. I think they've already tried to some extent.
It's just so Wild West out there, and like you can farm it on your own and be making more if you have the equipment. So how do they track that? It's whether or not you're honest and reporting correctly, and
Yeah.
it's really hard for them to trace.
Yeah. I think, I mean, people should have the right. I mean, that almost feels the same way with current cash, current fiat, current the U.S. dollar. People have the right to hold it in their wallet, but as soon as they do illegal drug dealing or whatever heinous crimes that may happen, that's where it goes wrong. And it's them that's wrong. It's not the currency, the cash, the fiat that's wrong. And that's how I view cryptocurrency. And on top of that, because cryptocurrency is decentralized, so there's no way the banks or the government can ever stop it. They could only try to regulate people. But it's a beautiful, absolutely gorgeous set of code underneath some of these cryptocurrencies. I say some of the cryptocurrencies because there are ones that are written that aren't truly decentralized, and that allows certain players to have too much power. A truly decentralized system, no single entity has enough power to take control of it or to mess up the system, to fudge with the system. So it's from a programmatic technological thing, it's amazing. I absolutely love cryptocurrency. I hope that we could have a paradigm shift for the better. When I say that, through blockchain and cryptocurrency, like say voting for the president, if they build a blockchain that's decentralized, everyone could have a vote, and no one could say that you cheated the system, because there's millions of miners. Miners are the servers that run the cryptocurrency around the world. You would have to like hack the code on every single, not every single one of them, but say just for hypothetical conversation, say there's 5 million servers around the world. Someone would have to hack around maybe 2.5 million of those servers, a little bit more than 2.5 million of those servers, to get the consensus mechanism to follow that evil person that wants to hack the system. So it's a beautiful system. Yeah, I think in the 90s we had the internet and we didn't know we would have like Uber Eats. I mean, think about from the internet now to Uber Eats, the idea of a decentralized car company that has taxi drivers that don't work for I don't know, they work for the company, but they're not tied to the company. They could leave the company at any time.
They're independent contractors. So
yeah, that's yeah.
I understand a little bit about how the Uber drivers get paid. So you pay Uber and Uber pays them, and that's it. They basically facilitate. They're a facilitator. They're a facilitator for the fleet. I actually signed up to be an Uber driver briefly, and didn't go through with it. John was not comfortable with me doing that, but and I didn't want drunk people in my nice new car. But yeah, it's the gig economy is fascinating. It really is, and I really think that I see both sides of it, right? Like I see the pros and cons to both. On one hand, you have this group of people who are able to make money outside of the normal system. You still have to pay, report it to taxes and things like that, but they're not tied to a desk like I am. But the argument is, well, if these companies are going to employ them, which they're not technically employing them because they're subcontractors, then they should be providing them benefits and things like that. Those folks out there driving for Uber don't have health care. And I mean, some of them might, but that's the argument. But our health care, I'm really fortunate in that I get very, very good health care through my company. And despite catastrophic illness, I came out of it just fine. But why is our healthcare tied to our jobs?
Yeah.
Why do I have to work in order to afford to, like, I'm 100% covered, but, you know, at previous positions, I paid, you know, premiums and stuff like that. Why do I have to work in order to be able to go to the doctor? Like, that's just crazy. If I had been diagnosed with cancer and been an Uber driver, for example, I would have lost everything. So I was tied to the company for at least as long as my treatment. And then, you know, through the hospital stays and all that, like, there was years that I really couldn't leave if I had wanted to, which I didn't, because my health was tied to my company. And that's and I think that we need a paradigm shift there. But I like the big economy in that those folks are free to work or not work as they please. And, you know, they get paid if they work, and they don't get paid if they don't, but they don't have somebody telling them they have to work this way.
Yeah.
There's a freedom in
that. Next question. What's the biggest problem nationally or globally what should humans do to fix it?
I think the biggest problem nationally and globally is a general disregard for it's selfishness, I think is the short way of saying that. And I say that because, you know, we make choices every day that affect everything. And no, I do not have solar on my house, but I'd like to. Which would, you know, help lighten our fossil fuel load and, you know, different things like that. We make choices every day. And I see so much people just don't care if it doesn't affect them, they don't care. Not everybody, but really great example that Gina brought up this morning in our Marco Polo was, you know, snowfall in the Cuyamaca Mountains. People went up to Julian and they went sledding and they had a great time, and when they were done, they left. And all the residents were like, look at this pile of trash that you left, your broken sleds, your, you know, lunch trash, all this stuff, you just left it behind because you were done with it and you don't have to pick it up because it's not going to live it. And I think that not thinking globally that this is all our neighborhood. And, you know, there's a lot of people that don't care what happens to somebody, you know, halfway around the world. Well, they're not my family, that's not my village, you know, why do I care about them? But we're a global society now. And the things that we do and the choices we make do have ramifications halfway across the world. And we need to be aware of that, and maybe when we have a choice, make a choice that would benefit other people, not just ourselves. I don't know what the fix is for it, because it's definitely a consciousness shift, but we do need to start thinking globally, or think of ourselves as a global village rather than an individual.
Yeah. At times, I want to say us humans are the problem, and
there's some really great people out there.
That is true. Is there too many bad people that outweigh the good people? I don't think so, but it's weird. I don't have an answer. It's a big problem.
Kind of take the Mr. Rogers way and find the helpers.
Yeah.
I look for the people who are picking up the trash that somebody else threw down, just considering more than just themselves. Those are the people I look for. They're the people I try to feel.
Okay, last question. Think of at least one person you know personally that should do this SomeViet conversation. Call them out. And just say their first name. Don't say their last name.
Ooh.
And I don't have to know them.
some really awesome people. And I'm trying to think of who I know. I mean, I know a lot of people who deserve to have a voice. I'm trying to think of who I know that should sit down with you and have this conversation. Because it's been like, I was worried. I'm like, 2 hours, a really long 3 hours. 4 hours is a long time. And it has gone by so quickly and just so like random and tangent-y and all over the place, and it's wonderful. I don't know. I'm not sure. I think everybody has something positive to say and something to bring to the conversation. And even Stephen, who just posted that, I was like, oh, is that what they're talking about? I actually kind of want to listen to it. Like, even though I don't do those things, I want to listen to what he has to say. Plus, I haven't spoken to him in like 25 years. So, oh, maybe Angela. Angela would be an interesting one. My sister-in-law.
Your sister-in-law, Angela?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
She is she's a counselor, and I think she's a therapist. You talked about like psychotherapy and stuff. But she's what's up, barefoot therapist. That's her, and she has a degree in movement therapy. So she movement. So as part of her therapy practice, she gets you up like woo.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But it works for her, and we're built to move. So.
Awesome. All right, Gina, thank you so much for this talk.
No.
Hopefully, maybe we'll do another one in a few months and see where you're at with your, you said you want to try to do now things.
I've got some things brewing, for sure.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.
Okay, bye.